In today's video, we're going to talk about wireless attacks. We're going to introduce you guys to wireless attacks and give you an introduction before we start a real practical scenario on how to do Wi-Fi penetration testing. So before we start, let's first introduce basic terminology or facts about basic terms that we will need to understand. The first thing is the term SSID. So SSID is the network name that we see when we want to try to connect to a wireless network. I hope you guys are familiarized with this one. The next one is the ESSID. Technically, or in general, there is no difference between SSID and ESSID. But in fact, ESSID can be said that it is an SSID that may apply to multiple access points. Like in a corporate environment or a university where you got multiple access points. So for every access point, we have an ESSID, although it's the same, but when it comes to authentication, the key for the authentication will be different. ESSID is used to calculate what's called as the PSK. So let's introduce it to the equation. So basically, let's put two columns, or let's remove this one. So we have this equation, guys, ESSID, okay, plus, it's not an actual plus, but in a general term, ESSID with the network password, the password that you type in the box when you first authenticate, equal something called the PSK, okay, or we call it the wireless key. So that's why ESSID is very important and kind of different from SSID in that it is used to calculate the secret key of the connection. All right. Again, we have something called the BSSID. So the BSSID, it is the MAC address of the access point. So it is the MAC address of the access point, meaning the router or modem or whatever. The next thing that we will need to familiarize ourselves with is the WPA2 PSK. WPA2 PSK is a standard, wireless standard used by networks that requires only password. So when you connect to a network, say it is evil network, right? When you connect with it, it asks you for the password. These kind of networks these days are powered by WPA2 PSK. Now we have another standard called WPA2, which is more secure than PSK. WPA2 EAP. In this standard, here we are asked to provide password plus username. And lastly, we have something called the radius. So radius is a kind of server that is used for authentication, not only for Wi-Fi. But if you are using WPA2 EAP, you will use radius server to provide username and password for your clients. Okay, so now we understand basic terms about wireless. Let's talk about the process. So basically, when we connect to a network, there is the handshake that happens, much like TCP three-way handshake, right? When you first establish a connection with an endpoint, we have in wireless something called the WPA2, but this time it is four-way handshake. During this handshake, the authentication happens between you and the access point. And this is the handshake that is the piece of fruit that we want to capture when we want to perform wireless penetration testing. So this is, I'm going to call it the target. We want to capture this one in order to test the security of the wireless network. Okay, new page. Now what happens here is, guys, let's take an example. So in a home network, let's say we have Wi-Fi called home. Home networks use either WPA2PSK or WEP. Now WEP is kind of obsolete protocol that has been depreciated and announced as insecure, right? So less wireless networks are using WEP these days. Most wireless networks use WPA2 PSK as it is more secure than its counterpart WEP. So most home Wi-Fi networks and many others use WPA2 PSK personal. So if you have to log in with a password and it is not WEP, right, then it is WPA2 personal. Some networks, maybe corporate networks, okay, say corporate, some of them I'm saying, they use, as I told you before, the WPA2 EAP, where you're given a username and password to log in. Personally, when I used to go to my university, I used to have username and password to connect to the network. So again, it is used in universities. So previously the WPAP here, or called wired equivalent privacy, it was previously used, but now, as I told you, it's obsolete. This was shown to be insecure and can be broken by capturing enough packets to guess the key via statistical methods. So don't expect to encounter WAP these days in wireless networks. If you get back now to the four-way handshake, what happens here is that it allows the client and the access point. So you as the client, so here PC, right, trying to connect to home network. What happens here is we have the four-way handshake. So it allows us, as you the client and or me the client, me and you the same, right, and the network, to both prove that they know the key without telling each other. So WPA and WPA2 use practically the same authentication methods. Like also we have WPA. I just remember this one. So the attacks on both are the same. WPA and WPA2, we perform the same attacks. So the keys, what you want to target, guys, are the keys. It's very worth mentioning that the key is or doesn't equal to the password. So during the four-way handshake, the key is calculated using the ESSID along with the password that you type in while connecting to the network. So the ESSID acts as a salt, making dictionary attacks more difficult. So it means also that for a given password, the key here will still differ and vary, right, for each access point. This means that unless you pre-compute a dictionary for just that access point, you will need to try passwords until you find the correct one. And that is the methodology in wireless attacks for WPA, WPA2, PSK. We implement something called, so when conducting attacks, we need the first thing, let's count them. So the first thing that we need to do before attacking a wireless network is to catch what? Catch the four-way handshake. Next, we write the four-way handshake and all of the packets to a cap file. So we need the cap file, and the last thing we need is a powerful word list. With all these three prerequisites combined and available, we can try the penetration testing, or we can try pen testing a wireless network. Okay, let's talk about the tools of wireless penetration testing. So we have multiple tools. We have first aircrack-ng, which is a full suite, guys, to do wireless penetration testing, and we have Wi-Fi. So this one is command line, and the other one is GUI. So both come pre-installed in Backbox. Okay, and in the next bit we will be using aircrack-ng, as it is more popular and supported, and it has vast community of pen testers, students who frequently go to the forum and ask questions, provide answers to those who ask. That's why we're going to use aircrack-ng from the command line in the next bit. So let's see how we can apply wireless penetration testing with all the concepts learned and understood. Thank you for watching. Okay guys, so it's time to do some practical work on Wi-Fi penetration testing. So the first step is to find out how many network adapters we have got. So if config, so we go to the terminal and type if config. So we have these, right? As you can see, I have one LAN 0, WLAN 0, which is the Wi-Fi network adapter I have connected to the virtual machine. So if you are running this on a virtual machine, you have to connect an external Wi-Fi adapter so that you will be able to conduct Wi-Fi pen testing. So in my case, it is WLAN 0. I can also find out by running iwconfig. And from iwconfig, I can see what are the wireless adapters I have running. So in the current scenario, we have one WLAN 0 and it is running under managed mode. So we have to put this on monitor mode before we start anything. So let's do that using sudo airmoon-ng start LAN 0. Okay, so now this will start the network adapter on monitor mode. We can make sure that the configuration has been set up correctly by running iwconfig, and now we see that the WLAN 0 is on monitor mode. Okay, so now here I'm stepping now to my notes. You can access these notes, sorry, not download. You can access these notes through the channel membership. You can have online access to all of these notes. So here we need to start the wireless network interface on monitor mode. We still have one step to go, which is making sure that no other processes are interfering with the network adapter. So we issue sudo airmoon-ng check kill. Here we kill all of the processes that may interfere with the network adapter. Okay, let's now again run aw-config, making sure that the network adapter is running on monitor mode. Now it is running on monitor mode. So what we will be doing in the first step is we air dump to be able to capture traffic and Wi-Fi beacons of nearby Wi-Fi networks. This step is very critical as you want to know what are the nearby broadcasting Wi-Fi networks. So sudo aerodump ng, and we type in the network interface name LAN 0 Wi-Fi networks. So I'm going to leave this running, and on the new tab, make sure to leave the terminal 1 running. So this is terminal 1. Okay, now in terminal 2, we're going to have to run again aerodump and focus it to dump beacons and traffic on specific network. So sudo aerodump -ng -bssid. Here we select the bssid. So we go over here and we select the Wi-Fi network that we would like to test. Make sure that you run these tests on Wi-Fi networks that you own. Okay, so it is not right to hack other people's Wi-Fi networks, right? It's just not your right, not my right. We don't want this to happen even to our network, so we're not going to do that to other people. So basically I'm going to pick up my network. So in my case it is this one. Okay, we paste in the bssid, and then we need the channel. So the channel can be specified with -c, Going back to the network, and my network is running on channel 1. So going back and typing channel 1, and lastly --right. So at the very end, we will dump all of the beacons and traffic into an output file. The output file will be processed in the next step. So we give the output file a name. Let's make it my network. Okay. And then we specify the interface, LAN 0. Okay. Now on a separate terminal as well, leave the past two terminals running, and under this step we're gonna deauthenticate one of the devices that are already connected to my network. In my case, I have around 7 to 8 devices connected to my network, so I'm gonna just disconnect one of these devices to force it to reconnect back to the network. During the reconnect process, I will be able to capture the 4-way handshake we have talked about. That's the aim of this. So again, sudo airplay this time. -ng --d authentication, and here we specify the number of the authentication packets or frames that we would like to send. You're free to select from 50 to and above. So we're going to select 200. And then -a, again, we're going to need the PSSID of the target network. This is the PSSID, and I cannot copy this PSSID, right? So let me try and paste it like that. It worked. Okay. So at the very end, we're gonna have to type in again the network adapter. So Kali, and so after a while, we take a look at the output files, and we see we have multiple files. We make sure to analyze the file that ends with .cap. This is the file that we will need to analyze now in order to crack the password. So to make things easier, since the password of my Wi-Fi network is complicated and there is no way would be found by the regular word lists on Kali, so I chose another dump file or a captured file from TryHackMe. So basically, I go here, and there is this room where there is a file. This is a cap file that has been created during a similar capture process to the process that we have been doing. So basically, all you have to do is download the file, all right, and let's do that on this network. So let's clear all of the clutter on here, clear, and now we're going to issue sudo aircrack-ng, specify the PSSID that we would like to target. Since this capture file may be for more than one network, so we're going to need to specify the PSSID that is in target. So we're going to pick it up from here. Go back. As you can see, I have the command ready. Specify the PSSID and then the cap file which we have downloaded, and then -w, the word list that we would like to use. Now the process, the success of the process, or the probability of you finding the password, relies highly on the password being in the word list, being found in the word list. If the password used for the wireless network doesn't exist in the word list, then there is no way on earth you will be able to find the password. And now as you can see, we started the process, and it's going to look for the master password or the current passphrase. If you go back, let's answer a couple of questions. So going back to the very first, these questions, you can answer them if you watched the very first of the video where we talked about the theory of Wi-Fi hacking. Now the next task 2 is about using the tools. So if you just explore the help menu of Ironmoon and AirDump, you'll be able to answer these questions easily. And the last task relies on you having the password found. So After the process finishes, you'll see that the password is this one. And where is the password? Where is password cracking likely to be fastest? CPU or GPU? Of course, it is the GPU. And as you can see, it's finished, and this is the password. Okay guys, I hope you like that, and I will definitely see you in the next video.